The flashbulbs of the Berlin press corps were so bright, they looked like miniature supernova explosions against the dark, sleek marble of the Adlon Hotel lobby. But the only light I cared about was the one fading from Stefan Voigt's eyes as he realized his empire was built on a foundation of sand I had been slowly washing away for 2 decades. To understand why a 7-year-old man was currently trembling at a podium while a government seizure notice was being read aloud, you have to go back to the winter of 1998 in a divided but healing Berlin, where my father, Klaus Weber, was the most respected architect in the city. My father didn't just build offices, he built dreams out of glass and steel, and his firm, Weber U&E Partner, was responsible for the modern skyline near Potsdamer Platz. Stefan Voigt was his protege, a man my father treated like a son, a man who sat at our dinner table in our beautiful villa in Zellendorf and promised to protect our family's name forever. But Stefan was a man of shadows, a man who saw my father's brilliance as a ladder he could climb and then kick away once he reached the top. While my father was distracted by the declining health of my mother, Stefan was quietly siphoning funds into shell companies in Luxembourg and forging signatures on a power of attorney document that would change our lives in a single afternoon. I remember the day the locks were changed on the Friedrichstrasse office like it happened this morning. The cold bite of the German winter, the sight of my father's drafting table being tossed into the back of a van, and Stefan standing behind the glass doors with a smirk that told us he had won. Because of the complexity of the contracts he forged and the high-priced lawyers he hired with my father's own money, the courts were slow, and by the time the truth was even a whisper, we were bankrupt. We lost the villa, we lost the firm, and most tragically, my father lost the will to live, passing away in a cramped 2-bedroom apartment in Neukölln just 3 years later. I watched my mother, a woman of grace and high society, work 3 cleaning jobs just to keep me in school, her hands becoming calloused and red from the harsh chemicals of the very building Stefan was now being praised for designing. The injustice burned in me like a low-intensity fire that never went out, and as I grew up, I realized that to beat a man like Stefan, I couldn't just be angry. I had to be better than him at his own game. I studied international law and forensic accounting at Humboldt University, spending every spare second tracing the digital breadcrumbs Stefan had left behind in the 90s. Knowing that men like him never stopped being greedy. Changed my name to my mother's maiden name, and spent 15 years climbing the ladder of the European Central Bank's regulatory division, becoming an expert in the very types of money laundering Stefan used to hide his stolen fortune. I waited until he was at his most arrogant, until he had moved into the massive luxury development project known as the Iron Spire, a €200 million project that he had staked his entire reputation and remaining liquidity on. Through a network of anonymous investment funds I had spent years cultivating, I became the primary lender for his project, hiding behind layers of corporate veils so he would never see me coming until the trap was snapped shut. I knew he was still cutting corners, still inflating his assets to secure more loans, and I waited for the exact moment the German federal authorities began their crackdown on architectural fraud in the capital. I was the one who provided the 400 pages of evidence, the forged 1998 signatures, and the trail of the missing 5 million marks that had been laundered through his current holding company. On the night of his biggest triumph, the gala opening of the Spire, I walked up to him not as a victim, but as his landlord and his accuser. I watched the wine drain from his face as I whispered my father's name into his ear, handing him the final foreclosure notice that I had personally authorized an hour before the police arrived. He didn't just lose his money, he lost his name, his buildings, and the very ground he stood on, as the press revealed that the great Stefan Voigt was nothing more than a common thief who had been living on borrowed time. Seeing him being escorted to a police cruiser while my mother sat in the back of a limousine I had paid for was the most beautiful structural alignment I had ever witnessed.